stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do a roll call real quick. Mr. Bogan?
Here.
Coletta, that's me. Fry?
Yeah, here.
And then we got to elect a chair. I'll elect Gary for a chair.
I'll second that.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
And then vice chair.
I elect Mike.
Thanks, man. You want to do the Gary? You second that?
Yeah.
So the appeals meeting, Gary will run it. I don't know if Scott, are you going to speak of it, anything, or do you have questions, or?
Yeah.
Okay. We should probably talk, we'll start with that. Present, let them present first? Okay.
Yeah, what we will do, we'll have John, you could have somebody represent you and present your reason for appealing the UCC code. Okay, so whoever you would like to call, then we will have somebody who's against it, or which would be Mr., not against it, but who reviewed it, Mr. Chernak. And after that, we'll have people speak for and against. And we'll do it in an orderly fashion. And one person will speak at a time. Okay? John, if you're prepared.
I'd like that, Mr. Blackwell. Speak on my behalf.
Sir, come up, identify yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Dennis Blackwell. I'm the attorney for Mr. Hollibaugh on this particular case. We will present our case through Mr. Brent Thomas. I don't know how you want to proceed with that, or would you like Mr. Thomas to come up here?
Yes, he can.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, why don't you come on up? Please state your name for the record.
I'm Brent Thomas with WK Thomas and Associates. I provided and erected the pre-engineered steel building for the project.
And could you describe for the board what that building consists of?
It's a 100 by 180 by 30 foot high pre-engineered steel building totaling 18,000 square feet. And it's a type 2 B construction. It's non-combustible steel. The roof is steel, the walls are steel. The insulation is fiberglass with a PSK skin craft, that's a plate skin craft facing on it. It's like a vinyl, reinforced vinyl, which is considered to be a Class A fire rated material.
And explain for the record what a Class A fire rated material is.
Well, the Class A materials are rated by UL, FM Global, and so forth for their fire resistance based on their flame spread and their smoke developed. This has a flame spread rating of 5, which classifies as a Class A. That's a low risk, low combustible material. It has a smoke developed rating of 25. That's on a scale of 0 to 450, so it's a very low end of a smoke developed rating.
So at the very low end of a smoke developed rating, does that mean that it doesn't produce a lot of smoke?
Correct.
Okay. And the materials, are flames, in case there is a fire, able to spread with this material?
Yeah, it has an extremely low flame spread rating, so it would not, without flame being continued held to it, it would not burn.
And does a Class A fire rating also mean that it has the ability to resist ignition from a fire? All right.
Mr. Blackwell, just for clarification, before we go any further, and that's my fault. Why are we here? What are you appealing? What are they appealing? What are you appealing? Why, we started off, we started talking about smoke and everything else, but I know why you're appealing, but there's a lot of people.
It's my understanding that they are appealing the determination under the code that they have to have a sprinkler system. Is that correct?
UCC requires buildings over 12,000 square foot to have a sprinkler system. This building is 18,000 square feet, for you're looking at a difference of if the building was 100 by 120, it would not require a sprinkler system. This building is 100 by 180, so it's an additional 60 feet in length. And that's basically why Mr. Hollibaugh is.
How about occupancy?
The occupant load is, I really can't even address the occupant load. I'm not the architect, I supplied the building. I don't really want to say, get into that.
Well,
I mean, the occupant load is higher in an 18,000 square foot building than it is.
If it's over 300 or more, it's required to have a sprinkler.
It's
correct?
really an
Right.
issue of the size of the building.
Mhm.
300 or more occupants?
So where's the closest fire department to this building?
Can I get up top?
Sure.
Fire department's directly across the street from the building. They also required us to have 3 fire exits in this building. We put 7 in, and if the board would wish for more, we would put more in. We're gonna put a fire alarm system in the building. We're gonna have fire extinguishers on every wall. We have a fire hydrant 30 feet off my building. I know Mr. Thomas was explaining to me earlier that he built a 22,000 square foot building without sprinklers, and they made him put a standpipe in a nearby pond a mile down the road. We have a fire hydrant on location that I own, 30 feet away from the building. It's gonna be a concrete floor. The only thing combustible in this building will be the wooden floor. But if you can light a board on top of a piece of concrete, good luck.
And there's an HVAC system in this building, isn't that correct?
There is.
Okay, and does that have any safety features to it in case there would be?
It'll
something
shut
on
down
there?
at a certain, I don't know what the exact temperature is, but the HVAC shuts down at a certain,
It's a smoke detector that shuts down the HVAC.
So where the HVAC system is located, if there was a fire and smoke detector would go off and it has a safety feature that would automatically shut down the HVAC system?
that is correct, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And there's exits on every door. Every door has, every wall has doors in it, with panic doors that you can just run out. There's ample space to run out of every door. It's level property on outside of every door.
So you have almost, well, you're a little over double the amount of doors that are required, isn't that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything else you need the board to know?
We tried to build with everything non-combustible, even the bleachers that I'm purchasing for inside, if there's any spectators, will be metal bleachers. That's really it. There's gonna be anything in that building that could possibly burn other than the floor.
Well, explain to the board what the building is.
The building's for any, well, I started out to put the building up, I wanted my kids to have a place to practice. And then I thought, I watched the kids get pushed out of the local gym sometimes, I know the girls sometimes take the back seat, I figured I would put a gym in for all the kids. Somebody had come up in a previous meeting and asked if this was for profit. Of course it's for profit, but I was gonna try to offer it to the kids for free. I was gonna try to rent it to the old pickleball guys during the day so they could help pay for the building, and then I was gonna offer it to the kids to practice in for no cost. You know, I don't know what that all looks like yet, but there's gonna be 2 basketball courts in there. I think it would do a lot of good for the community. I'm surprised if somebody were against this building for the reason that, I mean, if you'd rather see something else go in, we don't have too many gymnasiums in this town. The only other one I know of is East Union Church, which is pretty hard to get in because there's only one gym, and everybody tries to get in there. I myself tried to get in there. It's on a waiting list. So I thought the town could use 2 more basketball courts. I've never seen resistance if some of these people came to talk against this building. I don't understand why anybody would not want a gym for
Well,
kids.
When it is open and occupied, will there always be someone there to supervise it?
Yes. If there's people in there, yes.
If it's not you, you will hire somebody?
Yes, absolutely. I have another guy who I'm heavily involved in with coaching that actually bought the house directly beside it because he wanted to be a part of this too. We coach wrestling at Hampton together. He bought the house beside it because he wanted to be a part of it. There's so many people who want to be part of this, and we're just trying to get it off the ground. I mean, that's an extra, well, whatever the dollar tag is on the year.
I hate to say this, but you are a young man, right? I've been here a long time.
He's not that young.
Younger than me.
29 this year.
I've seen buildings come in and be built, and eventually they change their use. Do you ever see this building changing its use?
Not with not with the amount of money that's gonna go into the building for the wooden floor and this is an expensive building to build.
You say a wooden floor, it's like a basketball court.
It is, it's just gonna be 3/4 inch oak floor, 1 inch oak floor.
The majority of the building is safe, I mean, there's not a doubt about it, I mean, and really the permit is only for the shell right now. You'll have to come back to the board with the permit
Mechanicals,
plans.
with the 3 mechanics.
You'll actually come back to Scott with mechanicals in the walls and how
Right.
they're built, so it's critical at that point when you go to that process to make sure they're all fire resistant.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah, so.
absolutely.
So explain to the board the material that is used. As I understand, it's all steel and concrete.
Well, there's gonna be restrooms, the restrooms will be constructed of drywall and metal studs. Everything that we can possibly add to that building that's non-combustible, we're gonna add.
And Mr. Thomas spoke earlier, if the building were 120 feet, you wouldn't need a sprinkler.
Would not need a sprinkler system.
But because your building's 180 feet, you
Right.
need a sprinkler.
There are other sports complexes in the area that are built out of wood that have no sprinkler system that are at 12,000 square feet. I can't see how those children would be any safer in that building than they would in my building that's all metal, concrete, and there's nothing else, there's nothing to burn. The insulation will only melt if you hold a torch to it.
To Gary's point though, if it changes use, what use
If
is
it
it?
changes use, I'll put a sprinkler system in it.
Yeah, Scott, would they have to come back to the board if it does change use? I'm not sure, familiar with that district down there.
They would need a change of occupancy,
They
correct?
would need, yeah, they would have to reapply for it.
So they'd have to reapply, and at that time, you could force them to do it if it's something else with, children, doing a bunch of stuff or whatever, more divided rooms or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but you don't foresee any change,
No.
is that correct?
Not in my lifetime.
Does the board have any other questions? Anything that they need answered?
Not at this time.
So you're essentially asking the board for a variance to allow that
For
to
60 feet,
go
yeah.
through. And would you be able to build the building smaller and still be able to accommodate the 2 basketball courts and everything that you want to
No,
plan for that for the
no,
kids?
it had to be much bigger too. We were gonna put some weightlifting equipment in the front for the kids to train there. And again, that's all steel.
I played at East Deer. You ever seen there, Jim?
Where?
Where East Deer, north by.
Side
Okay. Anything else?
Any other questions? No?
Scott?
So I just made a little packet for you guys, so you know what, you pass them down. So I'm not here to be for or against this, I'm just here to tell you the reasons why a sprinkler is required and a little bit about that. So my first document I gave you guys is Mr. Hollibaugh's appeal application, which he appealed NFPA 13. So NFPA 13 does not require sprinkler systems, it just tells you how to put them in when they are required, right? So the sections that we need to appeal are not NFPA 13. There's 2 different sections of the code that were requiring sprinklers in this building. One is the height and area table, which should be 3rd or 4th page back. So this building is an A4 occupancy, type 2B construction. So this table already knows, the use group already knows what the building's made of. Says it's allowed to be 9,500 square feet big. Okay? So this building is almost double what it's allowed to be without a sprinkler system. Sprinkler system gets you a 200% increase in the size. Or you could subdivide it with a firewall and break it down into 2 smaller sections that are less than 9,500 square feet. All right, so that's what that table tells us. That's the first thing that we have to appeal. Second reason is the fire prevention chapter, which talks about fire areas. That's the next table back. And you see for an A4 use group, fire areas with an occupant load of 300 or more can only have a fire area of 12,000 square foot or smaller. before you need a sprinkler system, or you need to put in a fire barrier to create fire areas. Okay, so that's the second section that would need appealed. So, third page, I just wanted the board to understand their role in the process. I'm sure you do, but you can grant requests for variances if the code has been interpreted incorrectly, if the code does not apply, or if you have an equivalent form of construction. Then the last thing I gave you was an appeal that was filed in Bucks County for sprinkler systems where someone was converting part of a building to an assembly use. The board there did not find that you could just eliminate a required system, but they allowed them to alter that system a little bit and put up a fire barrier to make fire areas. So there's two sections that actually need appeal. 506.2 and 903.2.1.4.
Scott, without reading it, what was that one in Bucks County, what was the construction of that building? I just got this, I didn't get a chance to read it today.
I don't know if they say the construction type. They just say they were converting to an A2 building. They don't talk about the construction type.
I mean, that would be a huge concern.
And it's not a mirror image of what's going on here. I just wanted you to see how another board.
I just got a common question.
Yeah.
Is there any way he could divide the two courts up and cut the area in half?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Gary, you what?
He has two courts.
We could, we didn't want to do that.
Okay, why?
Well, it would, because you could use two courts for a lot of other different sports. You could have futsal tournaments in there or whatever, you could put games. Just, it would be more, if you close that area off, you're really limiting your space. You're training kids in there running, whole 9 yards. The bigger area would be so much more suitable for them. We thought about that. And I think our area went from 9,500 to 12,000 when we had outside space to get out of the building all the way around.
John, what's the square footage of the space that will be developed, like the concession area and the bathrooms?
18?
Well, the whole building is 18,000 square feet.
No, just the,
Maybe,
I mean, we know we can't burn the other part of the building, which is
you
the
won't be able to,
majority of it.
you won't be able to burn anything in the concession area either, because that's all gonna be steel construction.
What's the square footage?
It's about 1,200 square feet up in that area.
In that area.
Between the restrooms, office, the juice bar, concession area.
It's pretty small.
So that second section I talked about, the fire protection chapter, the 903.2.1.4.
Yeah,
So that variance would actually have to be twofold, because there are two options there, right? It's telling you fire area. So one of two ways to solve that, right? It's either a fire barrier, making fire areas, or a sprinkler. So it's not just, if you give a variance for a sprinkler, you still have the fire area problem. And you would still need to put in a fire barrier to make the two separate fire areas less than 12,000 square feet. So you can't just grant a variance for sprinkler, because then this is still hanging out there.
I didn't follow.
That second section I talked about, it says the fire area in an A4 can only be 12,000 square feet,
I know.
right? So the variance requested was to eliminate sprinklers, but that doesn't eliminate all the problems, right? Because you could give a variance eliminating sprinklers, but they'd still have to make fire areas.
what if you built a firewall between the concession and the gym? Does that not help?
I don't know what that takes the area to. The concession's not that big of an area. I don't know what the dimensions are. So just so you're aware, it's not just a sprinkler variance. That's all I have to say. You have any questions for me?
I don't think so. Then could we speak to the part about the second part of that without the sprinkler, the fire area? Like how do we propose to handle that? Or we're not trying to get an exemption on that as well, are we?
I think trying to get an exemption on the whole thing
Yeah,
because the way
there's not gonna be anything combustible in any of those areas.
I think the way we originally looked at it was, you can divide it into a fire area with, for instance, a concrete block wall. It could be an 8-inch thick, fire-rated, 3-hour concrete block wall. It could be a steel stud wall with 3 layers of 5/8 drywall on each side. But no matter how we looked at that, Mr. Hollibaugh expressed that that completely broke up the flow of the gym area. You know, you weren't able to get kids running, calisthenics back and forth. They weren't able to do that. And when you came into the building, you'd have one court on one side of this huge wall and another court on the other side.
We're trying to get open space.
We recognized the fire area initially when the architect was designing the building, realized that it called for that wall, but it didn't really work for the facility very well. You know, I believe that what was expressed to me was this was a unique situation with the fire department directly across the road. It doesn't really exist anywhere else in the township that way. And although I'm not the architect, I'm just telling you what the conversation was between
No, I understand.
Mr. Hollibaugh and the architect.
So I think, taking all that into consideration, the fact that there's, as I understand it, it's been explained, there's nothing really combustible in the building, except the gym floor, but I don't know how that will catch fire, number one. Number two, the fire hydrant is right there, the fire department is right across the street. The only area that possibly could be starting a fire would be where the HVAC system is. And there's smoke detectors there that shut that system down. And I don't know if they have a fire suppression system at that same time.
We're stepping the concrete floor as well. There's not gonna be any wood in the front 4,000 square feet of that building. It's all gonna be concrete. We're gonna step the concrete down for the thickness of the hardwood in the back where the courts are, and the whole front is gonna be a concrete floor with metal studs.
Could you put additional doors in?
Would be happy to. But there's so many doors, and there's already 8 doors. Seven
doors.
and a garage door. We can add more too, if they'd be happy with more, would be fine to put more in if you need to. You could literally run out any one of those doors in probably 3 seconds. No matter where you're at in that building.
The doors were placed so that they were adjacent to the bleachers where the crowd was at, so there was exit doors on each end of that, exit doors on each end of the court.
I think looking through this, I see maybe like 30 feet to any direction, to any door.
Maybe 45 feet to any door.
Like that.
If you're in the center of the
I've
court,
seen somewhere in there, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The building's only 100 foot wide, so it'd be essential with the thickness of the block and everything, probably 47 feet to any door.
I also think the board would be on good footing if they approve this appeal and waive that sprinkler, because you could limit it to this particular use. And if somebody had to change it, they'd have to come back before the board if they wanted to change this use, or if it got sold years down the road, and somebody came in and wanted to change it. I don't know what they would make it into, but someone could always buy it and change it, or Mr. Hollibaugh, if he wanted to change it. Theoretically, they'd have to come back before the board.
So the entire building is not gonna have a wood floor, only the 2 courts. The whole front will be concrete floor, metal walls, steel everything, so.
Do you ever foresee a time where you'll have over 300 people in that building?
We had to apply for that variance just in case we ever had a tournament there, but honestly, I think 95% of the time, that building would probably have 2 teams in there practicing, maybe not more than 30, 40 people. Would we ever have a tournament there? I would cooperate with the schools if they wanted to use that building. I think it's well suited for that, but I didn't build this to try to make $1 million. I built it so that all the kids would have a place to practice.
I can see that, but I still don't see 300 people there.
First of all, I don't see them ever holding a tournament in there, because
We only have
as
59
a father
parking
of
spots.
4, I've been to 1 million gyms and 1 million tournaments, and they have 20, 30 courts that are going on at one time, especially if it's a girls' volleyball tournament.
I'd like to see the school using their
Like
gym.
2 courts.
Right, that's one of the things that I thought about as well. If they wanted to share gyms, I mean, even if you had 2 basketball games, I've been to enough AAU games, you never really get, if you had 2 games going on there, you wouldn't have 300 people there at one time. There's not that many aunts and uncles.
Yeah, any other? Okay, right now I'd like to have, anyone who'd like to speak against this, you're welcome to come up, identify yourself, and state your case.
Good evening, Josh Wigan, 165 Squirrel Hollow Road, Fire Chief, West Deer number 3. We did not get the plans for this building prior to its land use development. When I did see the plans at the night of the meeting, there was several concerns about access for the fire department. There's only a parking lot in front of the building along the front wall. As was said, the building is 180 feet deep. The exit pathways for these additional exits are going to be into a side yard.
We changed
One
that.
of which,
We changed that. We have roads on both sides now.
okay, one of which has a
30 feet wide.
stormwater pond on the side of it. The fire hydrant that is currently on the property, based on the previous plan that I looked at, would not be usable for a pumper. We have to get that water to the pumper and then the water from the pumper to the hose lines for the firefighters. Our pre-connects on the fire trucks are 200 foot long. So if that pumper is sitting in the middle of the parking lot, it wouldn't even make it to the back of the building, whether you went from the outside or through the inside of the building. Just for a comparison, you know, West Deer number 3 just purchased the building down on 910. It is 16,800 square feet. Because we made, well, because of the size of the building and changing the use, part of that building is considered assembly because we allow the public in there, 3,000 square feet. So part of the building is assembly. In order for us to get an occupancy permit, we had to go through the expense of installing a sprinkler system because the building did not currently have one. I'm not sure what code it was built under. It was constructed in 1997. It is also a non-combustible steel and metal siding building with a metal roof. Just to speak of, you know, the IBC, I don't think this is something that particularly can be appealed. As a certified UCC inspector, I can tell you that, you know, as inspectors, when we look at codes and we look at buildings for safety related issues, IBC and NFPA both were created because of safety issues. And they make a non-combustible building put sprinklers in because something bad happened somewhere in this country and somebody got hurt or killed. So as the codes keep developing, you know, the sprinkler systems are getting better, the detection systems are getting better. Some materials are, you know, not as flammable as previous. However, a wood floor is typically going to be finished with varnish, which is flammable. You're going to have buffers inside buffering that floor. I did not see a build-out plan for this, so I have no idea what the floor layout is. But in the conversation of it being, you know, a wide open building, one of the biggest hazards to us as firefighters is large area buildings. Because of the opportunity for a firefighter to get lost and disoriented inside. You know, there's been several cases documented where that's occurred. They couldn't find their way out of the building. 18,000 square foot building, you're crawling on your hands and knees. You know, sometimes they run out of air and they don't make it out.
But there's no barriers in that building either, right?
Well, that's what I mean. When you don't have walls to follow or hallways to follow,
Or to get
you're
lost.
in the middle of a wide open, you know, room. You get disoriented, you run out of air, and you have difficulty finding your way out. We in West Deer Township have volunteer fire companies. Unfortunately, there is no way for us to guarantee a response from any of the 3 fire departments at any given point in time. We all respond from home or work. Our daylight response is very minimal. So, you know, my concerns with, you know, the access as part of the land use, and now, you know, considering that we don't want to put a sprinkler system in it, I think the design of this building and the design of the sprinkler system is not just to protect the building. It's steel, And, you know, upon enough heat, it will deform, but it's also meant to protect the people inside. We're gonna have the people, the public inside this building. They need to be given an opportunity and the time to evacuate. And it's also designed to protect firefighters, because if there is an issue, you know, in this building at some time in the future, you know, we're sending guys in blindly. And I say blindly because, you know, it's very hard to see through smoke. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
I would like to comment on that, if I could.
You'll get a chance after they're all done.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to answer
They
to
just,
what he had.
You will.
You get a chance.
They get a chance. Anyone else wishing to state their concerns? Thank you.
My name's Victoria Austin. I live on Hemlock Street in Bairdford. Let me begin by stating that I am for any addition to our community that moves youth away from electronic screens and into physical activity. I fully support the idea of the sports complex. However, given the basis for this hearing, I am alarmed at the applicant's indifference to the value of statewide codes based on safety. The first document I provided is a copy of Mr. Hollibaugh's UCC appeal application. The second page of this application shows it was accepted by West Deer Township's administrative assistant, Jody French, on Friday, June 6th. The township acted quickly to have this board convene June 17th, leaving the public only 6 business days to research it. Both Mr. Hollibaugh and Ms. French overlooked several items on the UCC application, which is incomplete. Number 1, the BCO or building code official name and date of denial is blank. Appellant is basing his appeal on a third-party review dated April 15th rather than a denial. Number 2, applicant neglected to date his application. Number 3, there are 3 bases that are grounds for a legal UCC appeal. Applicant Hollibaugh neglected to check off or choose which of the 3 required bases is involved in his appeal. Number 4, applicant noted that he is appealing code requirement 903.31. However, no such code exists. There is, in fact, a code 903.3.1. However, if this code was removed, the sprinkler system would still be required under 903.2.1.4 Group A-4, which is specific to facilities exceeding 12,000 square feet. This building is 18,000 square feet, thus exceeding the minimum size of buildings requiring a sprinkler system by a whopping 6,000 square feet. And to buildings with an occupant load of 300 or more. That's a potential load. It's not saying every day you'd have that load. When any of these conditions are applicable, a sprinkler system is required. This A4 group is for assembly uses for indoor sports and may have bleachers or fixed seats. Applicant also noted NFPA 13 which is not a code, but is a national fire protection standard. The code section area of the form is incorrect. Number 5, the deficiency field does not answer the question of what the deficiency was. Instead, applicant noted, in reference to fire protection, quote, not necessary, non-combustible construction, steel building, only flammable material is wooden floor. However, a sports facility with 300 or more people would contain gym bags and their contents, outerwear, sports equipment, possibly wrestling mats, papers. There's going to be an office there with papers, plus kids would have papers, electronics, plastics, conduits, paints, and finishes, and insulation, many of which are not only flammable, but emit toxic gases when burned or heated. Last but most precious are the children inside. who most certainly can fall victim to flames. Given these items, the UCC appeal application is incomplete and contains errors that should have resulted in rejection at the township level and should have been corrected before scheduling or granting a hearing. I will now refer to the second packet dated April 15th, the PCS, Professional Code Services, third-party review of documents for the sports complex, for which review of the shell only was requested. The preparer, PCS, is an official UCC inspection agency. Their review indicates, as I noted previously, that this building is classified as Group A-4. The code stipulates which types of commercial buildings are required to have fire protection systems according to their size, construction, and type of use. The April 15th review notes numerous items that were incorrect, missing, or requiring clarification, including the fire protection system, fire resistance rated construction, and means of egress. A business owner's #1 priority should be the safety of customers and employees. Parents whose children will utilize this facility automatically assume that normal fire safety codes were adhered to in this building. A fire sprinkler system provides a significant advantage by enhancing fire safety. Sprinklers quickly detect and suppress fires, potentially saving lives, reducing property damage, and lowering insurance costs. A sprinkler system increases the resale or reuse value of this building. In conclusion, I am not against this facility. I am against cutting corners, especially regarding the safety of children, to save money. There is no reason that this structure should be exempt from compliance with these codes, especially when the lives of our youth could be at stake. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Bill Payne, 362 Deer Creek Valley. There's been a lot of talk about the intent of it and that we're just going to add more doors. That's all fine. There is a requirement whenever you actually look at the code and the code commentary that any occupancy of an A4 category, even if it exceeds the 12,000 square feet, even if it doesn't have any exterior walls at all, still requires the actual requirement for a automatic sprinkler. So that adding more doors does not meet the code. The code says that if it's an open pavilion and it's over 12,000 square feet, it has to have a sprinkler. And that's in the code commentary. That's and for people that aren't familiar with the code commentary it is actually the interpretation and why they actually made the code. So, and I do have some sections if anybody would like to see that. Just that one because I wasn't really prepared to talk too much about it. But it is this paragraph right here. This is the code section that requires it, and then these four little diamonds are the ones that is the commentary. So that gives you the intent of why the code was written. Again, just like Mrs. Austin, I'm not against sports complexes. I think they're great. I think we should have more of them. I think that West Deer has a vast amount of land, and to have sports complexes is a good calling. I like the no off-season complexes, and but I just can't sacrifice safety for another complex whenever it can be easily accomplished and everybody can win. That's all I have.
Thank you.
This doesn't make any sense to me at all. So if you have a concrete patio and it's just a steel roof, you have to put a sprinkler in it?
If it's over 12,000 square feet, yes.
what could possibly burn? What could, I wouldn't care if somebody carried a bale of hay in there and lit it. It doesn't make any sense.
A lot of them don't
A
make
lot of
sense.
these don't make sense, and I think that is what this board is here for, right? To interpret whether we think the rule was designed for what the applicant is trying to do.
No,
That's not what we're here for?
no, that's outside of your scope. Your scope is to, and I gave you detail right out of the UCC regulations.
This board is also there to consider the reasonableness.
It's a universal code of appeal. This board would not exist had there not be an opportunity to appeal anything. You can appeal anything.
Right.
The board is tasked with looking at the reasonableness of the code. It's just like any other variance that you would want to do. It could be a zoning variance or anything like that. You're looking at you can afford, give someone relief from a zoning variance. This board was created to determine the reasonableness of the UCC, of the Uniform Commercial Construction Code as it relates to this particular project and the different attributes of this project. You know, whether, just what you said right there. Sure, maybe that board says that, I don't know, you're looking at one sheet of paper, you gotta take it as a whole, I'm not even sure what he gave you. But you're 100% correct. You would not need a sprinkler system on a pavilion with a concrete floor, a concrete roof, a metal roof, and steel beams.
Yes, you
What is-
absolutely would.
But that's what they're
But
saying.
you can get the variance from that, because what are you going to burn? You said it exactly. So, I'm not here to debate any of them right now. The purpose, I'm just commenting on the purpose of the board. You all can determine the reasonableness of the UCC as it applies to this particular project. That's the purpose of variances.
I would like to comment too on.
One more. Anyone else want to come up and speak against it? Or not in favor? Anyone else? Come on.
It's funny.
Good evening. I have a brief commentary. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come comment to the UCC Appeals Board. And first let me say that we do appreciate and support John in having an athletic center in the community. It's something our community needs. It will hopefully be a place where our children and grandchildren can be involved in positive athletic activities that nurture them both physically and emotionally. We also understand that it's important to manage the expensive construction project and to stay within budget. The question that we have is, wouldn't the sprinkler system have been part of the original cost and budget planned for this project, since it was known to be over 12,000 square feet? Our concern, which I think we all agree to, is that we should not cut corners on safety, especially when it involves our children, grandchildren, and family members, and that this is a very significant part of the UCC code. I would ask John and his builder and architect consider other options to reduce costs that don't involve risk to families and people that would otherwise benefit from this facility. What we also ask is if you have the long-term implications of this have been considered. For instance, is it likely that fire insurance will be more costly? In addition, what happens if the building is sold in the future and repurposed? John doesn't intend to sell the building, but things happen, and any of us could drop over dead tomorrow, and you'd have to repurpose the building. Installing a sprinkler system now, while the building is being designed and built, is about 1/4 of the cost of a retrofit in the future. This would not only improve the marketability of the building, but it would also give you a better return on your investment. To summarize, please consider the risk to families using the facility and the longer-term implications of not installing a fire sprinkler system. I'm sure John and his builder and architect are very creative and can come up with other ideas to reduce the cost. This board could also recommend a modified sprinkler system or postpone a decision to deliberate after they've seen an alternative design. Thank you very much for your consideration. That's all my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Those in favor? Anyone in favor? Just have to come up and speak. Go on, now's your time.
Does anybody want to talk before I do?
You can.
Well, I'd like to first address Mr. Williams' concerns. I don't believe I've ever seen Josh down at the site. Maybe because I've never invited him. I have a fire chief directly across the street, so why would I call him? Anthony Creatoro I've talked to several times, and I don't see him in this room objecting to anything. He too knows that his response time would be very minimal to get there. As far as access around the building, I have roadways around the building now. You could drive a truck on either side of that building. I have an access for the cable company up the other side of the building. I have 2 driveways on one side and 1 on the other. You could put a truck anywhere on the side of this building and probably behind it as well. So that's not accurate either. So you do have the ability to drive anywhere you want to put a pump truck and hit that hydrant. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Chris Hart, 2144 Saxonburg. I own a property that touches the sports complex. As John said earlier, he and I coach together. We've done a lot of work together. And there's one thing I can tell you about John, there's nobody that's more safety cautious than him. He will do everything he can to make this place safe. Whether there needs to be a sprinkler system or not, but I think in this situation, there's nothing combustible in there. We're talking about insurance, fire insurance, you know, that's up to him what he wants to do with that. Right? His personal situation, whether or not he finances the building or pay cash for it is his choice if he wants to insure that. But when it comes to safety of the kids, you won't meet somebody that is more safety cautious than him. So if there's alternative solutions to it, I'm all for it. I'm in favor. I commend John for what he's doing for the community and for his kids. Thank you.
Hi, Deb Jordan, Bayfield Road. So I'm going to concur with Chris Hart. So we all know Mr. Hollibaugh is a supervisor. That's going to come, of course. But I think as all of you, our first important role in life is us as parents. So the people that are going to benefit the most from this are his children, and he would never compromise his children, I can guarantee you that. The other thing is I would like for you to not lose sight of the tone and things that are happening in this township right now. It's very, it's not good. So there's a lot of people here that are sitting here for political gain, or there's being support for politics, and I'd like to keep that out of this for once.
And so would I.
Yeah. So there's a variance that was granted to a concert that the fire departments didn't have a concert venue, which is one road in, no way out. You cannot get an apparatus out of there. We're talking fire truck apparatus. They were granted a variance where there's hundreds of people, they're drinking, there was no sound study, there was no noise study. It was granted to them because it was reasonable. It was a 2-day event and it was reasonable. But, so it seems like
Who voted for that variance?
I'm sorry?
I don't recall that coming.
Zoning hearing board?
Zoning hearing board, that's correct. So that went through there because it was reasonable. It's reasonable, say, two-day event, you know, they consider that, but please don't lose sight of what's happening in this town. This town is becoming, unfortunately, very ugly with other people because of politics. It's getting disgusting. They throw around transparency, but yet there's not transparency between some of the people that are coming up to speak. So I am in support of it because I'm confident that safety precautions are being taken and that Mr. Hollibaugh would never jeopardize the safety of his children or anybody else's children.
Thank you. Anyone else? At this point in time, I'd like to take a little break so me and my compadres can discuss this, and we will be back shortly.
Is that a meeting room or something?
Hey, Scott. Scott.
Yeah.
Can you come here a second? Because we always did that. Sometimes I will say stuff that's idea. The township is not set up to park. I'm under the understanding. Permits application. Shell. Which will always use operation systems.
That would not hurt a shell.
So I can't allow a shell to go up too big.
That's right. That's what I'm playing.
I wish I could do it for John. I've never seen a solicitor have appeals here.
They should do this all the time. Not something they should do. But it should be done. Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah, I know you did.
I think it's the responsible
What happened? Apparently,
That's what I don't get.
I need to I take some as soon as I wake up, and then like when I feel it coming on.
I know what this one I sent you.
How about like aloe?
Already come to me for planning. So he asked me to recommend you start sending this.
Okay, here. This stuff, aloe will permanently free onboard and I literally just and the only thing that helps. But go ahead. What was the so he used the if that is. Yeah.
Actually, she graduates her fellowship in GE this Friday. She's at gastroenterology. She pays and endoscopies and liver.
Yeah, the whole site.
Right. Yeah.
She's not, when she did her fellowship, that's 3 years.
Yeah.
She's chief fellow, and graduated, and now she's gonna be starting, a couple months off, and then in August, starting, at Natrona and down the north side. Between the two. And she lives.
And what?
It's nice they give, the township comments, you do too. I said, you have the UCC.
With the driveway. Yeah. Why? Because he was the driver? Do they have to talk? Do they have to give it? Oh, really? No matter like how far. So it's like gold.
Let me see where it says.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sure, I'm sure we can.
What do you want to see?
You give it to him for what, for interview? What day of the year?
UCC reps. That's what I have.
I've seen it.
Right.
My reputation.
Right. Exactly.
I didn't want to say that.
Right.
You can't run anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when I was that, I don't want someone to come at me with my because they wait for basketball, like they wait for them to go to the dressing room, get pulled off, and then they come out and talk. And whatever marital problems that he's going with, he's already on edge. Because the media was saying, like, oh, White's not here, like.
Graduate college, ferocious basketball. So he's going to play against these college.
Yeah.
It's in several different places.
They broke up the
Board can't be held
Yeah. Right, right.
He's a ringer. He's a ringer.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny. Right. Right. Did you apologize yet? Is he hiring? Well, what's his name? Tiger Woods had this stuff. When he was going, with, like his wife was, beating his car with the.
Yeah, everybody on every board like that. Just like
Yeah.
I remember part of that.
Nuh-uh.
You had that.
Right. Right. It was random?
Accessible to, easily accessible now.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
No, he didn't. Yeah. Yeah. That's agreement. See ya. Oh, really? What did you tell me? That's horrible. Yeah. Michael Gordon is my favorite. Well, why did you do it? I said I heard the design sounds like that too. Didn't it? Like all of us. What's that like fun?
Just didn't. You didn't see me there.
No.
We don't want to table it.
Say it's gonna be. It's just funny.
Are you serious? I'll have to. I'm all about to crazy things that are going on right now. They're usually like one of those like the difference is discussing. Those surgeries do times a day. You have to look at the same thing and it was okay.
I wasn't, but I could listen to it.
Right. Right.
So it's fine.
Right. Right. What? No.
You are.
Well, we're talking about conspiracy theories. Yeah. What's wrong with him? It's open the Bible and it says all the stuff that's not wrong.
We'll talk about it. Is that your recording? I have received it. You just walked in there and said,
Yes.
the answer is no, you've already become a successful.
So you think it's
I have to make time.
personal?
Yeah. The resolution. No.
Yeah.
Not the people.
Yeah.
Motion, second motion, vote for it. And I don't know. Maybe just when you want to know tell us information. Then I fear like it's gone.
No, not until the older, like. But I saw, I don't know if you remember, Matthew so,
we've discussed this, and I would like to know if there's a motion by the board.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this with the condition of, John, do you want me to read
And read,
this? If you don't mind, it's after, I could try to read it.
I read it fast.
Yeah.
After listening to the testimony of everyone involved, and since permits have only been issued for the outer shell and grading, more permits will be required to finish the building. This board will approve the variance request from section 903.2.14 and 907.21, with the requirement that fire extinguishers be installed visibly on all 4 walls, that the board does not foresee the occupancy load to ever exceed 300 people, except for special occasions. And if that's the case, the township should be notified. If anything changes in the plans, we would like to be, the township should be notified. We would like to be notified. That would have any bearing on this decision. The road must be kept open around the building at all times. And that is the decision of this board. And thank everybody for attending. You spoke very politely against it. You spoke very politely in favor of it. I would like to make a recommendation, not pertaining to you, but from this board to the township, that all building plans be submitted to the fire companies. We used to do it in the past. It should still be done today. Maybe if this happened 2 months earlier, this could have been settled between the parties involved. And thank you for your attendance. It's a nice crowd. Thank you.